to know about this band who started with Billy back in 1971, because it's not that history was written wrong, it wasn't written. So we're here to write it.
Well, started with a bank in Colorado. The pocket of his vest, a Cody, yeah.
Oh, loneliness will get to you somehow, but everybody loves you now.
That I've got to begin again. No, I don't know how to start.
Well, nothing I say does no justice to you. Nights of the day, the way that you do, Josephine. Oh, Josephine!
It's been a long, long time, and I had to make up your mind.
Captain Jack will get you high tonight. With just a little push, you'll be smiling.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the special Q&A with the one and only Elio Pace, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay!
Our apologies. We hope we're not mixing you guys up. The video probably does say the Knock 'em Dead Comedy podcast. That's a show that Sallie and I host every weekday. Our apologies for that. But this is the Elio Pace Q&A. You are in the right place. This is Sallie O'Neill. I am Tony Walker. We are pleased and thrilled to once again be hosting a Q&A with the one and only Elio Pace. There he is. How are you, my friend? How are you?
Hi, Tony. Hi, Sally. I'm very well. How are you guys?
Doing well, thanks. Doing well. How's is the big heat wave over with that over there in England?
Yeah, it is. It's sort of over. We still got Levittown today,
Yeah.
But that big old, the big one is gone.
You didn't know you guys didn't know what to do with that, did you?
We're not built for it. We're not built for it.
You-
It's countries of the world,
I read that only
What does
five.
that even mean? You're not built for it.
Well,
What-
I read that only, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I read that only 5% of England of the people in England have air conditioners. Is that true? Yeah.
British people can't perspire.
But they don't. Yeah, they don't kind of have that kind of heat.
we're not set up for that heat.
How hot was it?
Okay, how did you
Yeah, do it in American terms.
double it at 30? So at one point, I think it got to 110.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I take it back. No more making fun of you. 110. Wow.
All right, hang on. I'm being told that people can't hear Elio. Do you? Glad you do.
We don't.
We can hear you. Yeah.
What do you want to do? Do you want to?
What?
All right.
I
So
wanna do.
give us a second. Let me. Yeah, give me a second. Elio, just say something.
Hello. Hello, is that? Can you hear me now?
Elio, ask people if they can hear you now.
Yes. Can everybody hear me now? Hopefully people can hear. I'm definitely talking. Give us a thumbs up or whatever it is you do on YouTube.
Send us a message.
Tight mic, if you don't mind.
Can you guys, Elio, say something again? We're trying to
we know
we want to make sure that they can hear
Hello,
you.
hello, I'm here.
I
am
think it worked.
here.
I think it worked. I'm just waiting to see if
If anybody says
you have
that
any,
you
for
can hear
comments to
me.
make sure it's there.
Let me just look on YouTube.
I just said the most profound things as well, the most incredible things I've ever said in my whole career, and I'm never going to be able to remember what I said now. So, how's that?
Yeah. Yep. We're good.
We're good, Mike. Thank you.
We're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everybody. So sorry about that. Okay. So the way
At
this
least
is.
it's good to know we've got people listening, right?
Absolutely
and watching.
right.
This is
Yes.
brilliant. Hi, everybody, and hi, Tony and Sally.
Sorry about
great to
that.
be
We
here.
were talking about how hot it is in England. All right. So now that you guys can hear everything and we're good to go, that's good that you guys are commenting because we welcome you guys to comment as much as you want. We will read most of the comments. If you have any questions for Elio, we'd like to share them with him for him to answer. So, all right. So we're good. All right. So, Elio, before we get into this, there was something I need to ask you. I need your help with something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go on.
Because, of course, we're here to talk about the new CD, which comes out tomorrow. But before we do that, Elton John,
Yeah,
Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding.
yeah.
One of two of Elton John's best, or is it trash? Is it one of his classic tunes? How do you feel about that? What do you call it? A medley or the two songs, whatever you want to call it?
Well, it's a bit like the prelude in Angry Young Man. There's a
Yes.
prelude, and then
Prelude. It's like a day and a half. I actually forgot what concert I was watching, and then I started to think about what food I needed to buy at the store the next day. I'd never heard this song before. 3 times before the man started singing, I asked Tony if it was just an instrumental.
Do you know what's happened, Sally, here? You have become a victim of the new age of social media where people can't watch videos that are longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You want things to happen straight away. Back in 1973 when this came out, it was the time when musicians... Actually, it's a semi-serious point, but this would never happen anymore on pop records. You won't get artists that put instrumentals, preludes that last 5 minutes before the first line of the song. They'll never get played on the radio. And Sally, I'm afraid you've become a victim of that.
There was it was actually the drummer in the band that was singing the song, and so I was sitting there thinking, the drummers usually aren't the singers. Maybe he forgot to start. Like maybe he was too busy drumming that he just said, "I forgot the words."
What she's talking about is we saw a band last night, just a local band playing, classic rock. It wasn't,
Yeah.
they're big on the Long Island scene, which is where we are, but they're not a nationally known band. But they were playing that song. So, yeah, Sally was like, when is this song what is this? I'm like, this is an epic piece of music. This is one of Elton John's best, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, firstly, how amazing that there's a band that is doing that as a cover, because there isn't one single band in this country today, tomorrow, last week, last year, next decade that is doing The Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding in their set.
You're right.
So I think
yes.
that's amazing.
Yep.
I actually think it's one of the most fantastic openings of any album
Thank you.
ever.
Yes.
I absolutely love it. And I think that when love lies bleeding in your head, it's just amazing. It's a great, great song. I love it. And we've had this conversation before, Sally and Tony, because you
We have.
remember.
Not on the air, though.
About the Billy Joel thing?
Oh, about this song. Sorry, I was talking about
What
this.
Billy
because-
Joel thing?
Well, if you remember the bit that goes bum, da 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 da, and then he works in the grove. It's the same thing.
Nice. So, which should make you like it even more. All right. Well, thank you for taking my side on that. I knew
My
you would.
pleasure.
So, all right. So let's. So we're here today to promote the long time Sigma reunion CD that is coming out tomorrow. Elio Pace, Kenny Ingram, David Clark, with Billy Joel's original band of Larry Russell, Don Evans, and Reese Clark. Wallace Burt, evening from Scotland. Hello, Elio, my friend of many concert shows. Carl Wooden says he can't wait to hear the CD. It's 9 years in the making.
Yeah.
Larry Russell is watching. Hello, Larry.
Hey, Larry. Hi, Wallace. Hi, Carl.
Let's see. Emster, hi, we can hear and see you. Good. Let's see. Why such a big venue in Glasgow this time around for the show, asks Wallace Burt. So there you go. There's the first question for you.
That's a very good question. So we are also just about to start touring. Next Thursday was the opening night of the biggest Billy Joel songbook tour in the songbook's history. We're doing 23 dates of the songbook, but in the biggest venues that we've ever played in. The answer is, Wallace, during the pandemic. Let me start by putting it this way. I have been promoting the Billy Joel songbook myself. Now, in our business, the word promoting literally means my money, my investment. Everything you saw on that stage between 2014 and 2019, before the pandemic came along, was me putting the money into keeping that business running, paying the band, paying the hotels, the travel, the posters, everything. I was the promoter. My company, Rosa Records, and I was happy to do it because I believed in the show. Then what happened was in 2019, and Tony and Sallie were there, right there in New York, the Billy Joel Songbook won an award for the DVD. And as soon as that happened, all of a sudden, I started getting phone calls and emails from other promoters in the UK especially. And one of those was Phil McIntyre Live, who are one of the biggest promoters on earth. They promote Queen with Adam Lambert and Brian May and Roger Taylor and our friend, my dear lovely friend Neil Fairclough. They promote that they promote all the biggest comedians around this country. So when you see a Bill Bailey show advertised, that's Phil McIntyre promoting it. And now you know what our promotion word means. It means that they are now paying for so much of what I was paying for. And it's the most incredible thing that can happen to somebody like me who has started a business, and then somebody comes along and says, we're not going to change a single thing. We love the product you're giving us, but we're going to pay to put this in bigger theatres, and we're going to make a cut from it if you're happy. And I was like, where do I sign? And that's why we are now playing Glasgow Concert Hall, which is one of the most prestigious places ever. And that's why we are now looking at playing at these bigger venues. For however long this beautiful wave lasts, I'm going to ride it. It's an amazing moment for the Billy Joel Songbook.
It's a rarity that this is going to come out a little weird, but it's a rarity for somebody of your age to get that kind of backing at this stage of your career and that kind of freedom backed to do for your product.
You just called him old. I can't believe that.
She did. He did, Sallie. He actually called me.
Well,
old.
I am younger than you, so I can, yeah.
I
even
think it's
though I
just-
look older.
It's just amazing when you work so hard at something and someone comes along and just appreciates it and wants to supersize it. It's just, I think that's like such a beautiful, amazing thing.
Thank you, Sallie, and thank you, Tony.
And you're in such good company with Queen, and that's fantastic.
And all the great comedians. Yeah, but you know, this is just another one of our business, as anybody in this industry will tell you. It's all about the ups and downs. In fact, probably any businesses, any industry is up and down. I've had so many great things. When BBC Radio 2 and Terry Wogan came along and said, we want you to be our musical director and featured artist, that was the same thing. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't have to do gigs that year. I didn't have to book my own things because all of a sudden I'm working, and I'm working at the highest level on national television and radio. So that's a great thing. And then when people like Albert Lee come along and say, will you come and be in my band?
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, amazing. That's another great accolade. I have been blessed with accolades, and we have ups and downs. And Phil McIntyre coming along and taking the show is literally one of the best things that's ever happened to me as a professional musician.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, another great tour. Actually, so I want to say I was going to say another great tour coming, but it's kind of like two tours, right? You got the songbook and you're doing some album shows.
Exactly. Now, so we're going to be doing the songbook show, which is all about the hits, and we're playing all these big venues, and most importantly, the songbook is now looked after by Phil McIntyre's people, but the Billy Joel albums show isn't looked after by Phil McIntyre. That is still a Rosa Records production. That's my company, and I'm still doing that myself. There was interest expressed in handing it over to another company, but I want to get to the end of the 12 albums before I start thinking about selling the concept on, and maybe I don't know, but at the moment I'm just thinking we're going to do the 12 albums and that will be it.
And how many are done so far?
We've done 6.
Oh, well, okay, that's awesome. And usually, if I'm not mistaken, don't you usually do 2 albums at one time?
Exactly.
Good.
So we've done, the very first tour was 2018 with David Brown. We did Glass Houses and Innocent Man. In 2019 with David Brown again, we did Stormfront and The Stranger. And then earlier this year, with the pandemic hopefully out of the way now, we had to cancel 2 tours of it, but we came back in March and we did Street Life Serenade and 52nd Street, and we're about to do, right in the middle of this huge Billy Joel songbook tour, we're going to do another 2 albums. We're literally taking a break at the end of September from doing the show. This was obviously all coordinated with Phil McIntyre's people. I said, listen, I want to keep going with these album shows. Fine. So we'll step out the way. We'll do songbook for September, do your 10 shows of the album shows, and then we'll finish off October with a few more songbook shows. So we're actually, and I don't think this has ever been done before. You're selling 2 different tours at exactly the same time, although it's all to do with the great Billy Joel. So, hey, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens.
No problem. No pressure.
No pressure. No.
So, all right.
Listen, it's all this great Billy Joel music. It's all great stuff. It's all great.
Absolutely, which is why it is. It's all great stuff, but it's also you're full of great stuff, which is why you get such a large audience, which is why the audiences return to see you every time. And that's all the comments that are coming in. Just, Richard Cogger and Emma Lumley and so many people, Rez Hampshire, just so many people talking about how great you are. Yeah,
thank you
absolutely.
so much. Well,
yeah, and I feel like do you feel like you brought Billy Joel to the UK? Like, I don't know that it was such a big deal. He was such a big deal over there. I mean, I can speak for the States that other than New York, there's a handful of songs that people hear across America, but just the top hits. And I feel like you really brought like such a storytelling moment over there.
Well,
I mean, really, honestly, I wish you
Thank
would.
you.
I wish you would do that here. I mean, I think people would love it.
Well, thank you very much, Sally. Let me set the record straight. Billy Joel was a huge star in this country.
Oh, really?
In 1983, he was the biggest thing in the world. He was the Ed Sheeran of his time. He was the Adele of his time. And but what happened, as you know, in 1993, he said, that's it. I'm not going to make any more records. I'm not going to make The River of Dreams, which next year, guys, is 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it. I'm still sitting by the side of the River Thames with my headphones on and my Sony Discman listening to The River of Dreams for the first time. It feels like 2 days ago. So Billy was a huge star. He was all over television, all over radio, and is still regarded. Let's go back to 8 years ago before we started the songbook. He was still that guy, the guy who did Uptown Girl. He was, and Uptown Girl's on the radio every single day, 8 times a day, 80 times a day, whatever it is. But what I feel we've done is, well, I can tell it's simple. Nobody was performing his music. Nobody. There was no Billy Joel night at the local restaurant or the local pub. There was certainly no tribute band in the sense of dressing up and looking like with the glasses and stuff. There was nothing. Nobody was singing Billy Joel songs, not at weddings, not at corporate functions. It just wasn't happening. And I watched this happen since The River of Dreams came out nearly 30 years ago. I was like, why is there no Billy Joel show? Why is no theatre? I know Moving Out, the show itself on Broadway that came to London and lasted 3 months. That's not the same. It was a dance show with Billy Joel's music in the background. Let's be honest. That's what it was.
Yes.
And it was a great show. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved it when I saw it on Broadway. But that's not what I was talking about. Where's the show? Where's the guy telling the story? As I said before, there was a great big finger from the sky pointing down at me going, you, mate, you do it.
Well, thank goodness for that.
So that's what we've done. We've basically, I think, reawakened a lot of people's love of Billy Joel. So many people have come to the shows and see me or write to me and go, I had no clue. I had no clue that Billy Joel had written She's Always a Woman. I had no clue that was New York State of Mind was his song. I had no clue that I knew so many songs. I went home and downloaded his albums. So that for me has been one of the greatest thrills of my career.
And there's which I want to get to later. There is a little bit of a correlation between this show, the long time that's coming out, and the songbook. So I want to go back. Let's go back. If you wouldn't mind, give us a little history of what this CD is. You know, who are these guys? You know, because unfortunately a lot of people don't know them.
Which is exactly why this album has to come out and why I have spent the best part of 9 years trying to juggle between the growing success of the Billy Joel Songbook and then that DVD and the CD that came out. I mean, I wanted to put the Sigma together the month after we did the show 9 years ago.
Right.
But it just wasn't going to be possible. Like, my life was just getting too crowded and stuff. The Sigma show, let me put it in a nutshell for you. Billy Joel became a solo artist in 1971. He made his first album as a solo artist in 1971. And you know, Tony and Sally, that Billy had played all around Long Island and New York and surrounding areas in the 60s with a band called The Hassles and The Lost Souls and Attila. But he put all that behind him and in 1971 moved to LA, as far as I understand it, and signed a record deal, a very small little record deal with a company called Family Productions, and they made his first solo album. The first time it ever said Billy Joel on the front of an album. Billy then needed a band to promote that album. And so he put his first ever band together, the first ever touring band. He'd already recorded with some incredible musicians in the studio to make Cold Spring Harbor, but he wanted to take those guys on the road, and he asked Reese Clark, the drummer on the album, if he would like to come on the road, and Reese said, yes, I will. He needed a bass player. I don't know what happened before the call to Larry Russell. Maybe he'd already asked a bass player. I don't know. But Larry Russell, who had been a drummer in a band called The Age of Reason, who knew Billy and had supported Billy in the 60s whilst Billy was playing organ in The Hassles, sort of acquaintances that they would meet each other. One day, Larry meets Billy's now new manager and says, hey, what's going on with Billy? Well, Billy just released a new album. We're going on the road. And Larry basically says, do you need a bass player? Because I'm playing bass. Yes, we do. Come and do an audition. So Larry Russell got appointed, Reese Clark, and Al Hertzberg, who didn't play on Cold Spring Harbor. Now, that's a little hole in my history. Maybe Larry can help out with that. But they asked a guitar player called Al Hertzberg to go on the road. That band ended up on the road with Billy. 6 months into that first tour, in April 1972, that band with Billy were asked to do a radio show in Philadelphia on a station called WMMR. They were doing a series of shows live for undiscovered young upcoming talents in America. And Billy was asked to go along, and he did. And during that show, that 1 hour live concert on the radio special, he did a brand new song called Captain Jack, which set the station on fire. They started to play the recording of this over and over and over and over again. Eventually, Clive Davis, who was the head of Columbia Records, a few months after this, heard about Billy Joel, heard the live version of Captain Jack recorded at Sigma, and signed Billy to Columbia Records, and his trajectory went that way. He didn't become a star overnight, but he was on the road to becoming a star. 41 years later, that bass player in that band, Larry Russell, sends me a message and says, I've been watching videos of you on YouTube because a certain Tony Walker has tagged you in and has brought you to my attention. Tony Walker, I will never be able to thank you enough for that. This is exactly what you did. You told Larry about me, and Larry checked me out and enlisted me to be part of the reunion of that original touring band 41 years after they disbanded.
To
Unfortunately,
take the place of Billy Joel, right?
Yeah, to take Billy's seat. Right.
Yeah. He wanted to use two different piano players, so he had the fantastic David Clark to do half of the show. He'd asked a young lad who was 15 at the time from Canada called Kenny Ingram to come and be part of the show and do two parts of it. And then he asked me to do 6 songs. It was absolutely unbelievable. It was a yes before he'd even finished the sentence, you know.
All right, before we go any further, I just want to interrupt real quick because we have a comment here from Marcella Makeup and More. Hello, I'm Marcella Elio's daughter. I'm listening and enjoying the interview. I love you, Daddy.
Oh, Marcella, I love you too. I'm looking straight down the camera, Marcella. She's staying up later to watch this, Tony and
nice.
Sally. But I love you. Thank you for sending your message, darling. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for calling in.
All right, so let me ask you that. So you get the call from Larry, and I'm glad Larry listened to me, but I have no idea what I did to convince him. We didn't even really know each other all that well at the time.
We didn't know each other at all, Tony. We didn't. I think we'd exchanged a couple of comments publicly on a forum or something. But it was Larry that said to me, "You were brought to my attention by Tony Walker." And I went, "Oh, Tony Walker, the guy from New York, yeah, him." Okay, yeah. He said to me, "Listen, if you're doing this show, you should check out. I have a friend in England who I've been following for a few weeks." I mean, we didn't know each other, Tony. We did not know each other.
So So this was after we met for the first time. Actually, I don't even remember anymore.
We met, didn't we, at Hicksville train station?
Yeah.
Was it not January 2012?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So there was that much planning because the show wasn't until 2013.
Until September 2013. So about 18 months later, right? But we said hello to each other at the train station, didn't we? I mean, I was passing through. I said, okay, Facebook, you come, yeah, I'm coming. Nice to meet you. We said hello, had a picture, said goodbye. That was it. I mean, we stayed in touch a little, but, we didn't really know each other.
Right, yeah. And I had come across through the Facebook page, Billy Joel Completely Retold. It's the biggest Billy Joel fan page on probably in all social media. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody posted a video of you singing "Honesty," and I just watched it from Wogan. Yeah,
but you must have seen more than just one video, right?
It was a year later, exactly a year. It was January or February 2013, a year after we met at Hicksville train station, that Larry Russell contacted me and said, "Are you busy in September?" On the 22nd of September, because this is what's happening, and I'd like you to be part of it.
So let me ask you.
The songbook, just so you wanted the history.
Yeah.
The songbook show hadn't even started.
Right.
It was one of those things that never. I say it was in the back of my mind for 30 years. The songbook show had sat somewhere around it at the front here. I was trying to get on with my life, but I couldn't stop thinking about wanting to do an evening of Billy Joel's songs. And I tried a few times in the decades before to get this thing going. When Larry called me, I went, wow, this is a once in a lifetime phone call. I knew who Larry Russell was straight away because I knew the history. And I was like, that's amazing. I'm so grateful for this offer. I've got to get that Billy Joel songbook show going. And that's when I really went to town in finding a booking agent for him to start booking tours for the following year in 2014.
So you kind of answered this already, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So when you got the call from Larry, did you view it just as a Billy Joel fan, and musician, say, wow, I'd love to play with these guys, or did you see this as some kind of springboard for your career or getting exposure? Like, why was this gig so important for you?
Because I had been called upon by a legend, a guy who I knew the story of, a guy who was there at the beginning of my hero's career. And this guy had called me, and he didn't ask me to, play piano on a track and send it because he wants to release an album. It was, will you come to New York? Not will you come to Dallas, or will you come to, Arkansas? Will you come to the place where Billy Joel is from, where we are all from, where this whole thing started? And will you come and sing these songs for us New Yorkers? You've got to understand that, for a kid, for an Italian Brit brought up on the south coast of England, in Eastleigh near Southampton, by two Italian people, my mum and dad, both Napolitani, immigrants, and I'm loving Billy Joel since I was 16 or 17 years old. These are not phone calls that you expect to get. It was a big deal to me, big deal.
And not to mention just on a personal level, the friendships that formed out of it. I mean, this was, this was the first time you met Sallie. You developed a friendship with David Clark, and the whole band. This was the first, and even for us Billy fans, this was the first time you had a group of Billy fans that got to know each other through something like Facebook. Facebook was still fairly new at the time, maybe 4, 5, 6 years in. So this was, Facebook, like these meetups and gatherings were still kind of a new thing. So this was the first time. It was almost a show strictly for Billy Joel fans. So everybody felt the importance of that gig and it really was just such a special night because you guys as a band were so tight. Even though Billy doesn't love these songs, we all do. So it was such a special night for so many reasons. I'm assuming that it meant the same to all of you guys up on the stage.
Oh, it was, and as you've quite rightly said already, the reason why this was special is because this was the first time these guys had ever played together in fact, Don and Larry had never played together. Don Evans joined the reunion because Al Hertzberg, unfortunately, was not well enough to take part by this point.
Right.
Don had played on Cold Spring Harbor, so in fact, we've even gone back a step further and got the original guitar player to come and play. This was so special.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Well, you guys wait until you hear this record.
Yeah.
Don Evans kills it. Larry Russell kills it. Reese Clark on the drums kills it. David is amazing.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say David is just phenomenal on it, and Kenny, 15-year-old kid who comes along and he's got like the backbone like you wouldn't believe. He just got up there and went, well, I've got to begin again. Beautiful. And then he plays the incredibly difficult nocturne in the middle of the show.
Right.
But what was important, Tony and Sallie and everybody listening, is that this was Larry's idea. Larry had the idea of putting this reunion. Had he not done that, we wouldn't be talking about this band.
Right.
Nobody talks about this band. Nobody still is talking about this band. They will be after this album comes out, believe me, because this is not a pathetic little excuse of a gig. You were there. They were brilliant. The songs are brilliant. Thank you, Sallie. Thank you. And this CD captures all of that energy. And I know you don't normally thank certain people when you do these interviews, but Tony Draper, who mixed it, absolutely incredible job. Nick Watson, who mastered it, just took it up another level. Both of those guys contacted me privately as they were working on it, saying, wow, thank you for asking me to do something so important in the history of rock and roll. So those guys knew how important this is. This record is important because nobody has ever ever told, written about, made a documentary about. There are no books about it, about the original band and how they played their part in making sure that Billy Joel became a superstar. So I'm so proud that as the producer of this record, that this has finally come into the world.
And of course his classic lineup, which are now known as the Lords of 52nd Street. Of course, those guys were fantastic musicians, but
amazing.
So it's not taking away anything from them, but these guys should not be forgotten about too. These guys were a pretty tight group of musicians as well. And yeah, like you said, we were there. It was magical for us, and we listened to some interviews that you've been doing this week, Limb Radio and whatnot, and you have played a couple of songs, and it's amazing. It very well produced, well mixed, and it kind of, there's clips on YouTube and whatnot, but to actually hear this, real production produced the way it should be, it really it takes you back to it, and just really kind of gives you a feel of the magic that really went on that night and how great the show was, and nobody wanted it to end. It was crazy.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. It was an hour. It literally was an hour and 22 minutes long.
Right.
And to make it fit onto a CD, we had to lose 2 minutes. And all we lost was a little bit of waffle, a little bit of time taking, getting to the piano in between, sipping of water. But everything you hear on this record is exactly what happened that night. Mate, I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the many people who were there that night who have contacted me to say pretty much what you've just said. Oh my gosh, I'd forgotten about this. I thought this was never going to come out. It never left me. 9 years of thinking about it every single 5 days.
Yeah.
I've got to get to the Sigma. I've got to get to the Sigma. I've got to open that hard drive up. I've got to look at those tracks. I've got to start working on the artwork. 9 years.
So all right. Well, first I want to point out that we will be playing a track ourselves shortly. But you just gave me a perfect segue to one of the questions I have here. Why did it take so long? I mean, I know you've had tours, you've had albums, you've done.
Elio's lazy.
Yeah, exactly. the exact opposite. The most unlazy person I know. Yeah. But so what can you tell us? Why did it take so long? Was it just a scheduling thing? Was it trying to get all the tapes together?
COVID.
Were you trying to COVID? Were you trying to work in? Because I know, in fact, you even hear it, right, if I'm not mistaken. So I remember it was talked about that night at the concert. There was talk about a documentary. Were you trying to get that ready as well? Why did it take 9 years?
I didn't edit that bit out of the CD as well. Everybody that gets this CD tomorrow, because the release is tomorrow, and it's all been shipped around the world. I hope the international people will get it quickly. But
we better.
Everybody will hear. Sorry?
I said we better get it quickly. We're waiting.
Yeah, I know. I say in the CD, and I didn't cut that bit out. I didn't leave it. You're all going to be on a documentary, because the idea. Let me answer the question first. Why did it take a long time? A long, long time.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did? It's been a long. You wait till you hear David Clark sing that beautiful song.
David Clark is a beast.
He's a beast. He's a beast. What a voice that guy has. I just love him. I wish he would make his own album so I could buy it and just enjoy it. You know,
exactly.
David, make your own album. David, come on, I'll produce it for you, mate.
That'd be cool.
Anyway.
And that's just it too. Like I know, like Tony talked about, or you just said, oh yeah, Tony found me on a Facebook. We had a couple of conversations, and I can't. You could tell me, oh, this didn't happen, and what do I know? But when Tony finds someone who he likes the music, he gets really crazy about the music. So there's no doubt if he liked your first song, he looked up a whole bunch of others, because Tony loves deep cuts. He loves people's original music. He just craves it. So I'm sure
That's amazing.
Before he recommended you to Larry Russell, it wasn't oh yeah, check out this guy. He probably had heard, probably had listened to your music more than your mother had.
Which means so much to me, because I know that Tony wouldn't, Tony, have taken it lightly on a whim to recommend anybody. That's a big thing to recommend somebody. And I really, as I say, I'll never, ever be able to say thank you enough, because you literally changed the course of my life with that recommendation. So thank you. Why did it take long? 2013, I spent 6 months learning to play the songs like Billy played them on Sigma.
Which
And
is
then
harder
if you
said than done.
Which is not easy when you've spent a good part of 25 years learning how he played it on the Piano Man album
Right,
in Cold
exactly.
Spring Harbor.
Right.
Billy
Right.
Joel fans are very strict.
So so basically I had to go to work. You know, I was 2013. It was September, the concert. Then I think I literally went from New York home for 2 days, and I was on a ship playing somewhere around the world. I don't know where I was, and then it was Christmas, and you're gigging and you're working, and then I knew that the Billy Joel Songbook was starting to be booked, so I was getting together the Songbook show, and then the Songbook show came around in March of 2014. Now, there you go. All of a sudden, over half a year has gone, and then you've got to pour your heart and soul into making this show successful with my money, and making sure that you're doing it right and tweaking where you need to tweak. And then the next thing I know, the songbook is growing in popularity, and my time, we're doing 70 date tours of the UK. That's a lot of traveling. That's a lot, and cruising at the same time, and other private gigs at the same time. There was no time. Billy Joel Songbook became the thing I had to concentrate on. In 2015, they twisted my arm to make the DVD. I didn't want to make that DVD. I said, I literally was, who needs another version of Just the Way You Are? Because Billy's version is the Mona Lisa. It's fine. Leave it as it is. So I didn't, but then we did. And then that became the thing that I needed to get to market. And the next thing you know, the years have gone by, and then we had a little bit of a hiccup in the middle with the filming that had taken place at the bitter end that night, which needed sorting out. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it needed sorting out. And on behalf of Larry, Reese, and Don, and Kenny, and David, I sorted it out. Cost me a little bit, but I eventually got the rights to this video footage and the audio. And here we are 9 years later. And I've had time because of everything that's been going on. You would think, but Elio, you did nothing for 2 years during the pandemic, right? Why didn't you put Sigma together then? I started. I did. But when there's no studios around, when there's, there's people, everyone else had to take another job because there's no, it wasn't normal. Plus, during that pandemic, I was trying to keep my business afloat with the songbook shows being cancelled, with the album shows being cancelled, which meant I had to rebook those shows. It was an incredible time. And I managed to find the time to get this audio. Now, let me say something that I've not spoken about at all yet. And I want to be fair to everyone that's listening and has bought this album, which is this. Yes, we filmed the show. It's not complete. There may be, I might need to get audience footage to fill the gaps. But my idea was to release the Sigma as a CD and a DVD at the same time, and possibly even a documentary to go with it. But just there was not enough time. There wasn't enough time to put it all together. And I didn't want another year to go by without something coming together. So I went, do you know what? We're going to release the CD in time for the tour. So when I do Captain Jack, I can talk about the new album, tell the story, talk about those boys as I've done for 9 years in the Songbook Show. And next year, the plan is to next year release the DVD of the concert.
Nice. Yeah, and I'd love to see, me personally would love to see the documentary that comes with that, because I know there's been a few times where the documentary idea had come to light, and I know there's some great rehearsal footage and stuff. So I'd love to see that, all of that.
Well, it is, and hopefully you will all see it. I don't want to give too much away because it's still a work in progress, but believe me, we got very, very close to getting the documentary made by the BBC. Let me just tell you.
And I understand you don't want to get too much into it, but I will tell you.
I don't want to get into it. We got close, but there are reasons why we couldn't in the end.
But the scene where you and David Clark are fighting, punching each other and throwing guitars at each other, it's just something that everybody needs to see.
well, they will see that, of course.
All right, so All right. Well, you know what? Let me get to a couple of There's a lot of questions and comments coming in through the YouTube feed, and I thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
So some of the questions coming through, I'm tying some of them together. First off, Emma Lumley. Emma, I still have a lot of your questions here from last time that I didn't get to, so I saved them. So I'm holding on to them just in case we need them here today. But Emma says that she already got an email saying her CD has been dispatched. So we're excited.
Everybody that bought the CD who lives in the UK will get the CD unless something goes wrong with the post. They'll get it tomorrow morning. And remember, we're 5 hours ahead now, so we're coming up to 9 o'clock here. Tomorrow morning, guys, you guys will have a little CD sitting on your doormat.
That's fantastic. All right. So some of the other questions coming in, I'm tying a few together because a few people have asked about Billy himself. Was there any involvement from him? Did he give any seal of approval? Have you ever spent any time with the man? So basically, a lot of people are asking if Billy was at all involved. Have you ever had any involvement with him?
Does he know it's coming out? Does he know what you're doing? Do you think that he knew about the concert in the first place?
These are all very brilliant questions, and I know they must be burning because these are exactly the questions that I would be asking. Yes, Billy knew the concert was happening. I tell you why. Because Billy's archivist and ex-road manager and one of the big Sony Records executives, a guy who the late Jeff Schock knew all about it, and he was in constant contact with Larry all the way through the build up to this. And Larry and Jeff would talk about the show and tell him about how things were going. So Larry told Jeff told Billy. I also know that Billy was in contact with Reese Clark, the drummer, and Billy knew this was all happening. Billy didn't turn up to the show. I mean, I've got to assume, I've never really spoken to Larry about this, but I've got to assume that Larry's first idea was to get Billy and the band to reunite. That's what it should be, right? That's the way it should have been. I don't know whether that question was ever asked. I don't know. Actually, I don't remember having that conversation with Larry, but Billy was not involved in it, but Billy certainly knew about it. And I can tell you this, he definitely saw some footage of the show just a few days later because Jeff Schock, the aforementioned Jeff Schock, was at the gig and he filmed the whole show from the back of the room. And I know for certain that Billy saw clips of the show. And the only feedback I can tell you is that Billy saw it and thought it was good.
That's fantastic.
Well, and we'll even attest on our show here. We had Billy's what is Steve Cohen, the sound guy, right?
The
lighting guy, right? Steve Cohen, Billy's lighting director, been with Billy since the 70s. He was actually in here at the studio with us once, and we talked about your songbook DVD, and he was familiar with it.
He knew all about it, didn't he? You told me.
He did. Yep.
He knew all about the David Brown tours. He
right.
knew.
Yes.
So the truth is,
but you've never gotten any, direct. Hey, Elio, Billy says good luck with this tour. Billy said, like, you've never gotten anything like that. I think that's what they're asking here. If there's been any direct contact through him or his people.
I'm going to tell you two things. It's not direct. It's never been direct. The phone has never come up with unknown number and it's like, hey, it's Billy Joel here. How you doing? It's never been that. But twice I've had indirect messages from Billy, not directly to me, but basically he's happy to let the other person he's talking to know that this is how he feels, and that other person is happy to pass it on via another person. So twice. And I can tell you one of them was Carl Woodin, who once said to me that he'd had a conversation with Jeff Schock about me and the Billy Joel thing, and Jeff had said to him that Billy was fully aware that these 70-date tours were happening, and he's heard good things about it. The second one was the great David Brown himself, who said to me that he and Billy on the phone at one point had spoken about us, because he said to David something like, so you're going over the ocean to play my music again, right? You're still playing. And David said, yeah, the band are great. Elio's doing a fantastic job with your songs. And yeah, I love the band. I love the trip. And Billy, they spoke about it. So, and David told me that conversation,
Very nice.
so.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
I'm fully aware that Billy knows that we're here, but I honestly, I know you must think I go to bed hoping that, oh, please call me tomorrow, please Billy, please call me tomorrow. I just want to speak to Billy Joel. I can't tell you how it doesn't feature in my life. If Billy Joel wants to talk to me and wants to call me up and say anything, it will be the most incredible phone call of my career. But I don't sit hoping for it to happen. I am so grateful that people like you, the fans, the band, the people who love this music have found me, that we found each other, that we can celebrate this glorious songbook, that the news has spread to people like Phil McIntyre, who are prepared to pay to put me into the best theatres in this country. I'm like a cat licking behind his paws. I'm very happy with the way things are.
I thought he was going to say something else right there. I got a little nervous. So, all right. So I got three more questions that are coming from the viewers, and then I want to get to playing the track. You mentioned David Brown, not to put like a negative spin on this, but they're asking if David Brown is ever coming back to do one of the album tours.
No.
Yeah.
He's not. I'm really sorry to say he isn't. Me and David are still friends. We absolutely, but David doesn't want to make the trip anymore. And it's as simple as that. And so there will be no more David Brown.
Yeah. If you're ever in the Massachusetts area, he's playing regularly. He's been posting lately. He's been playing with his band in a number of venues there. He's still tremendous. I'm dying to take a trip up there to see him. I've never met him, but I love his guitar playing. So
I can't believe you've never met David Brown.
No. We've had some conversations through social media, but no, never in person.
He, I would say you should get him on your show, but he doesn't like doing interviews.
Right.
I tell you what, like the Terry Wogan thing, I will wear the badge of honor that David Brown played in my band for the rest of my days. David Brown is one of the most incredible guitar players that's ever lived. He's also one of the loveliest people that I've ever met in this business. He's funny, he's humble, he's kind, and I absolutely love the guy. And playing with him was one of the most incredible experiences. We have 4 albums worth recorded of me, David, and the band playing together. And those albums are going to come out eventually. I promise you. It's just a matter of getting to it.
Love to hear that. Do you think, so you mentioned him coming on the show, which I would, of course, would love to do. He doesn't like interviews, but what if I said, we'll set up the Zoom and you just play guitar for 20 minutes. Would he do, you think he would do that?
I think he might.
Yeah.
And I think if he try it, if he got into the zone. Do you know what? Maybe he needs, try and get Billy Joel on the show with David Brown. That would make an interesting conversation. Those two are still great friends. Billy called him, 2 years ago or something, 3 years ago, just before the pandemic, and asked David to come and play at, what's the big venue down there in
Madison Square Garden? Near Boston.
No, Boston, yeah.
Fenway Park?
Fenway Park. Billy asked David to play at Fenway Park, and David couldn't do it.
And
I think
he was busy, or wow.
I don't know why, but and I think the invitation has to extend to Madison Square Garden. So I wouldn't be surprised if David Brown appears at Madison Square Garden at some point.
I would love to know what the reason is. No, sorry, I can't make it to play with you, Billy Joel, at Fenway Park.
The new Marvel movies coming
I'm having
out.
dinner with my sister's sister, my wife's sister. Like, I would love to hear the reason.
No, I think it was a last minute thing. I think that Billy called David like a day before the gig. And I think David must have had something very, very important that, like a graduation or something that he had to go to for his family, or there was something going on. I mean, it's going to be big that you turn it down, but I think it was it wasn't like, hey, next month I'm at so and so. I don't know. I don't know.
Emma Lumley says she has met David and has seen him play. He's a lovely guy. Okay, the next question. I've had a few people here are asking if there's any reunion plans with the Sigma event. Any plans to do that again?
Well, if there are, I don't know about them, and I'm just being honest. Not the no. And if it does, it's got to come from Larry. It's Larry's baby. It was his idea. I'm very honoured and proud that he entrusted me with the audio and this video to create the product that people will hear. But if there are, me and Larry Larry and I have not spoken about a reunion for the Sigma, and if it was to happen, it would happen in New York. It would have to happen in New York because Larry is not traveling either these days. So we'd have to come to there. So, but I don't know anything about that at the moment.
All right, my last question, and then we're going to play the clip. Carl Wooden says, he said something about a donut fight.
A donut fight. Well, I think he might be referring to what happened the year after. The year later, in 2014, Larry organised another round of the Sigma reunion, and we did 3 more shows in 2014. At the Bitter End again, at the World Cafe Live again, and we also did one in Delaware at World Cafe. So this time, I thought to myself, right, if I'm going to do this, come over to America again, and I'd already had the idea of starting an album called Another Word for You. Now, people talk about the Sigma. I've got an album that I still haven't finished. It's called Another Word for You, the unsung Billy Joel songbook, recorded in studios, Neil Fairclough on bass, Joe Evans on drums, me at the piano and vocals, recorded in Brooklyn. And I thought, if I'm going to make this album and I'm going to come back, I want to organize a separate session and ask Larry, Reese, and Don if they can come to the studio to record with me 2 songs from Billy's catalogue. It was actually Weekend Song and Ain't No Crime. So during those sessions, we had a lot of fun. And I think Carl's referring to a point where there was a whole box of donuts lying around. There was coffee and donuts at one point. And I had a donut on the go. It was half eaten. And I went, right, I'm just going to put this down. And this is on camera, okay? I'm going to put this down. I'm going to go and do that other vocal. And I'll eat the donut as a victory meal. So I put the donut down. I went into the booth and I sang the song a couple of times again. Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. Came back and I went, where's my donut?
Oh, man.
And Don Evans went, oh, was that yours?
Was that your American accent right there? Was that yours?
Oh, it was. Hey, you see? Hey, did you think that Don Evans had just walked in the room?
I did a double take.
I thought it was John Wayne.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So wait a minute. So this thing was half eaten. So there was like there was like a teeth mark, and he still ate it.
There was one left. So it's like, I've had enough. He must have gone, whoever started that doesn't want it anymore. So I'm going to...
That's great.
That's the donut story. We've got this on film as well. You know.
Okay.
So
Get this ready.
So the so I guess they weren't satisfied with their pay. They had to take donuts from you too.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. There
So
you
is
go.
it is it this one or this one?
No, the other one.
This one.
All right, so we're gonna play a track from the brand new album that comes out tomorrow. Long time. Do you want to set this up at all, or
No, I want to hear you do it. I love the way you talk, Tony. Just do it.
ladies and gentlemen, right here we have the American premiere. So you've done Lim Radio, you've done a few interviews in the UK, which I mean, I don't know. You just go on the internet, and you can hear anything anymore. But I'm calling it our American premiere anyway because I want our station to have credit.
Nice.
Well, no, you are the very first American
Right.
to publicly play a song from this album.
This is a song from the album. It's a song you all know and you know it well, but this was the way Billy would play it before he ever recorded it, and this is what these guys had to create. It's tremendous energy. Anything with Elio was fantastic, but this, Elio, Reese Clark, Don Evans, and Larry Russell playing the classic Billy the Kid.
Virginia, rode a boy with a 6-gun in his hand, and his daring life of crime made him a legend in his time, east and west of the Rio Grande. Well, he started with a bank in Colorado. The pocket of his vest a coat he hid. At his age and his size, took the teller by surprise, and the word spread of Billy the Kid. Well, he never traveled heavy, yes, he always rode alone, and he soon put many older guns to shame. And he never had a sweetheart, no, he never had a home, but the cowboys and the ranchers knew his name. And he robbed his way from Utah to Oklahoma. The law just could not seem to track him down, and he served his legend well. All the folks they love to tell about when Billy the Kid was in town. Let me tell you now. Well, one cold day a posse captured Billy. The judge said string him up for what he did. And the cowboys and their kin, like the sea came pouring in, watch the hanging of Billy the Kid. Well, he never traveled heavy, yes, he always rode alone, and he soon put many older guns to shame. And he never had a sweetheart, but he finally found a home underneath the Boot Hill grave that bears his name. From a town known as Oyster Bay, Long Island, rode a boy with a 6-pack in his hand, and his daring life of crime won him a legend in his time, east and west of the Rio Grande. Thank you. Please welcome back David Clark.
Elio Pace once again, brother.
Once upon a time, in the land of misty satin greens, there stood a house and a man who painted nature scenes. He painted trees, fields and animals and streams, and he stayed and he didn't hear the falling of the rain. And he didn't hear the falling of the rain.
This one.
In the forest green lived a girl who put her hair in braids, and she sang as she walked all around the wooded glade. And she was glad when the rain came falling on. I can't sing.
I'm sorry. Just get going.
All right, so first off, just played Ballad of Billy the Kid by Elio Pace and the Sigma Reunion. Fantastic, love it. Can't wait to get my hands on that CD and listen to the whole thing. And then we followed that up with Billy Joel himself from 2015 playing Falling of the Rain, and he couldn't even get through it. He stopped himself. He says, I can't do this. Billy is not a fan of the music from that Sigma period, most of the music from that Sigma period. Tell us why, and tell us how you feel about that. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, mate, why? Who knows? And I think you're probably one of the best people to answer that. I know that Larry has his reasons or has his version of why, but what can I tell you? The album didn't come out sounding the way Billy wanted it. I mean, people talk about it was mastered at the wrong speed. I've always had a problem with that, because mastering doesn't mean changing the speed of things. You don't mess about with the speed. So I don't know what they mean by remastered. It was mastered at the wrong speed. Something happened in that recording. And I don't think Billy's ever got over the trauma of it. You know, he's finally got his first record deal. He's got his first album come out. Can you imagine, right? Me never hearing that record, me never hearing the Sigma, or me inviting everybody around right now to listen to Sigma for the first time, and I press play on the Ballad of Billy the Kid, and Larry and Reese and you and everybody's sitting the way waiting, and it's
Yeah, completely get
it. Imagine that.
Totally worth it to ask that question just to hear that.
Imagine.
No, it's completely true.
He ripped the record off the record player apparently and threw it against the wall and ran out of the house, embarrassed, upset. And then that guy, so the history books say, oh my gosh, I got to be careful what you say. That guy ended up, because Billy had legally signed a contract, but the contract wasn't a friendly contract to Billy's interests. Let's put it that way. So Billy disappeared from this guy. The guy, that's when he did his piano bar stint as Bill Martin. I just think, and then he disappeared and blah, blah, blah. I just think the whole experience was one he doesn't want to relive, I'm sure he had a lovely time. He then had to go on the road promoting an album that doesn't sound right. So it's like the guy is putting up with this. I think, and I'm talking to Larry here at the same time, but, I just think, I don't think it's anything personal with Larry or anything personal with whoever signed that, whatever. I don't think it's personal with Reese or Don or whatever, because, Billy went on to use other musicians and blah, 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 blah. But I just think he looks back and goes, that was so embarrassing. That was just so embarrassing. I'm so glad I got a second.
Well,
they are amazing.
But let me ask you this, because in the clip we showed, he stops, he says, I can't continue. And he was as he's playing the song, he's making fun of his lyrics. This was his first album as a solo artist. Maybe still kind of fairly new at songwriting. Is some of this the fact that he just thought it was weak? He's taken some of the songs, like some of his album songs in the Attic. That was the whole idea of that album, was to put out, kind of redo songs that people didn't know and get them more attention.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, is it possible? He has what, 2 songs I think from Cold Spring Harbor on Songs in the Attic. Is it possible he just doesn't like the rest of the album? He doesn't like the actual songs, regardless of what happened with the recording.
Well, listen, I have a big theory about this, and you always draw out the contentious stuff of me, Tony. You really do. But I'm going to just tell it as I think it is. Firstly, Billy Joel is entitled to have his own opinion about his own music. And there's none of us are worthy of telling him to change his mind or, what are you talking about? He can see his life the way he wants to see it. But because I can't understand how he can listen to a song like Tomorrow Is Today unless it's too brutal for him, because that song's about suicide,
right,
about his attempt at suicide.
Right.
Maybe he sort of quietly wishes he'd never gone that far. Maybe he's embarrassed about something. I don't know. Unless you ask him this question, Tony, or somebody, instead of these slightly banal interviews that we're seeing all the time with Billy Joel, which I've got to say are starting to really annoy me because I want to do the interview,
right?
Or
yes.
I want you to do the interview.
Yep, I hear you.
I don't want the CNN version. I don't want this ABC version of. So tell us, did you write Uptown Girl about Christy Brinkley? Who cares?
Right,
Billy.
Here's
Billy.
the thing, though. Any interview that I've seen him on, you guys are acting like he'll pick another song off of another album and say, now, wait to hear this. This is the best writing ever. I love this song. He never, ever says anything great about any of his songs.
No.
I mean, the only thing that I've ever seen him say, or kind of like Elio, when you're saying you just couldn't leave the Sigma alone. You had to get to it. It was on your mind all the time. He would say, I have to write this particular song. I keep hearing the melody in my head. I have to put it down on paper. So he actually makes it sound like he has to just to have peace within himself, do this stuff. But I don't think he likes any of his own work. So
well, how can he not like Tomorrow's Today? I'm sorry. How can he not?
He
how
has
can he not
no
love?
Bad stuff. Every single album is. There's no bad songs on any of his
Every single
albums.
song.
Every song.
Every
is great.
single song has a moment of genius in it.
Yes.
He talks about we didn't start the fire. Dun, 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 dun. He says it's like a dentist's drill, right?
Right.
But how clever is that to basically snap in 40 years of history without him looking up but one reference in chronological order and make it rhyme? I'm sorry, Billy. Stop pretending you're not brilliant. Now, this is the crux of what I want to say. This is what I think. I think the guy was so bruised by so much in this industry, by that first rip-off, by the second rip-off, when he discovered that his brother-in-law had stolen $93 million off him. His marriage broke up. You know, he says now he doesn't feel he got the dad thing right with Alexa. There's a lot of stuff. And I just don't think he wants to. And also on top of that, he was always criticized. Always criticized. Rolling Stone, the NME, the magazines, he was never, ever accepted as being the genius that he is. He was never as cool as Bruce Springsteen. He was never as cool as Don Henley. He was never as cool as Paul McCartney. And yet, in my humble opinion, his songs are the greatest rock and roll songs ever written by anybody. And I think what's happened now is that Billy's like, do you know what? I'm as happy as I could ever be. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got 2 young children. I've made my peace with the evils that went in the past and what happened there. I don't want to listen to Cold Spring Harbor. I still remember that day I threw that record against the wall. That's why I don't want to talk about it. That's why I don't want to go there. And also, I also think he thinks that by dissing himself and saying how much he thinks Captain Jack is boring, it's just 2 chords. I'm sorry, that's some of the greatest songs in the world are just 2 chords. And that's what I would want to say to him. How can you diss Captain Jack? How can you diss Honesty? How can you diss half of Cold Spring? In fact, more, I tried to write it in French, c'est toi. I tried to write the song in French. It was rubbish. It wasn't rubbish, Billy. It was brilliant. And and you taking the mickey out of Falling of the Rain, everybody, and not one person, professional person who listens to that song goes, oh my God, what are these lyrics about? Everyone goes, oh my word, what a chord change that is. Once upon a time in a line, that chord there. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. How can you not see that, Billy? So I think this is the crux of what I'm trying to say. I think he's protecting himself so that he never, ever has to hear anybody criticizing him ever again. He's going to play the card of, I don't care. It was all right. Some of the stuff was good, but some of them grew up to be doctors. Some of them grew up to be bums. These are his standard words. Right. And I think he does that to deflect any more criticism. I'm done with looking over my career. I wrote some songs that lots of people like, and I wrote some songs that nobody knows. And I think he does it to protect himself, because there is no way anybody can listen to how clever these lyrics are, how incredible these songs are, and say it's rubbish. It isn't.
We have Richard Cogger says his body of work is unrivaled, and Lorin Coakley says she totally agrees with Elio.
Who does?
I want to interview. Do you know what? The only reason I want to meet Billy Joel is to ask him questions. I want to ask him.
Well, yeah, I've always liked your take on Cold Spring Harbor, how the mastering and all it doesn't really make sense. So yeah, I would love to see you. I would love to see you talk to him about that.
And I don't think it's him that would have the answers. I'd like to find out. I want to find out who engineered it, who mixed it, I know who produced it, and I want to know what happened at what pressing plant, because this is not a mastering problem. Mastering, you take your stereo files, you add more EQ, you add some compression, you can move things about physically, but you don't. And maybe mastering means something different back then in the early 70s than what it does now. Maybe they're talking about the transfer from the multi-track to the record. Maybe something happened there, but even that's not consistent, because not every single song is out by the same amount.
Let me ask a quick question. Has the album ever been released in normal time?
They've messed with it a little bit through the years, but
why can't you just?
It's still not.
Because I tell you why, and Don Evans told me this, because the multi-track doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
Because R.T. Rip recorded over parts of the multi-track for his reissue in 1983, which he put out because he knew his kid was now famous and he was going to make whatever it was in every dollar. So he remixed a Cold Spring Harbor and put it out with basically just Billy at the piano, right? I'm going to land in court talking about this, but no, I'm just telling how it is. Right,
you're fine, yes.
No, I'm fine. I'm just telling you what I know, right?
It's the truth.
It's the multi-track. If the multi-track exists of Cold Spring Harbor, that problem can be easily rectified. I'll do it. I'll do it for you.
You know, it's interesting with the technology today. You do think somebody would be able to still lift the vocals, and then you and Reese and Larry and Don can go in the studio and redo the backing track.
It doesn't exist. I bet you it doesn't exist, because if it does exist, with technology today, you can digitize every single track, Billy's vocal, the bass drum, the toms, the hi-hat, the bass guitar, the guitar, 2 channels of piano. You could digitize every single thing separately, have access to every single component of the song, and rectify the tuning and the timing. It can be done.
So, all right, Joel Fan says great points, which I believe, isn't Joel Fan? I believe that's Mike Stutz. Hello, Mike Stutz.
Hello, Mike.
Roz Hampshire. I'd love to see Elio interview Billy Joel. Billy is a genius, but so are you, Elio. All right, then Mark Whitehead. Great analysis of Billy's troubled relationship with his own music from Elio. This, though, is precisely why we all need the Billy Joel Songbook Show. It gives the songs the love they deserve.
Right.
There you go.
Well, that's a beautiful comment. Who said that?
Mark Whitehead.
Mark, thank you so much. That's very moving, because that's the reason I do it. And that's why when I watched this last interview, the 45-minute one with Fareed, whatever it was, I'm like, is this it? Is this it? Is this all we're going to get from Billy Joel now? Is this the level of interviewing we're going to get? I thought that was one of the most banal interviews I've ever seen. And I'm sorry, I don't know who even Fareed, whatever his name is. Is it CNN? He's somebody.
CNN, yeah, I forget his name as well. You know, actually more than I do.
Why can't Billy Joel sit and talk about his music? Just like Elvis Costello did this fantastic series of programs where the most brilliant interview I ever saw with Elton John was when he was sat opposite Elvis Costello talking music for once. We weren't hearing about flowers and tiaras and tantrums. And we were hearing about Elvis Costello said to great questions to Elton John, and we found out more. What music do you love? Tell us. No, forget about all the stuff you pretend to love, like today's music, which you're going to be promoting. Let's go back. Tell us about your love of Leon Russell. Tell us about your love of Nina Simone. And hearing Elton John talk about that, and it's going to take someone like me or you, Tony, to get this out of Billy. I would so love to sit down and say, mate, let's stop dissing it, right? Let's go back to Piano Man. Let's talk about Piano Man album. Just talk to me about when Ronnie Tutt came through the door. How did you feel about Ronnie Tutt being your drummer? You knew he was Elvis Presley's drummer. How did that happen? What was your relationship? Tell us about the song. Why did you decide to write Traveling Prayer? Where did you get this idea? I could ask him so many questions about music. I want to hear about music. I don't want to hear him talk about all the other stuff. I just want to hear him talk about music.
Right.
Yeah, I agreed 100%. But yeah, Mark gives me a good segue into the tour, which is starting. Is it next week it starts or 2 weeks?
Thursday. Next Thursday. A week today.
Wow. So you're doing some album shows towards the end. Now, with the album tours, with an album like the Long Time Sigma Reunion, you know, you're shedding some light onto an area that a lot of Billy Joel fans don't know about, whether, you know, the band and these songs. And I've brought this up to you in the past, but I'm going to bring it up to you again. Do you think in the same light, so you're bringing attention to an area that a lot of people don't know about in Billy's career, would you ever consider doing like a non-album show, or even the Attila album or the Hassles albums? Do you think people would come to see that? Do you think that's...
What do you mean by non-album show? Like live?
Yeah, like
songs
B-sides, soundtrack, songs that were on soundtracks.
I see what
songs
you mean.
that weren't on any of his albums.
Sorry, I didn't understand at first.
Yeah, songs that weren't on any of his albums. And then whether it's the same show or a different show, he was in a band called Attila, this, again, before Cold Spring Harbor, before he was who he became. And even before that, he was in a band called the Hassles, and they put out 2 albums in the 60s. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering if there would ever be a consideration. And be honest, do you think that people would come to see it? I personally think that they might come to see it because you have the hardcore Billy Joel fans and because it's you. People enjoy what you do.
Well, that's very sweet of you to say, and I appreciate the people that trust me with music, whether it's singing Billy Joel songs, Elvis Presley songs, or my own songs, and people have supported me for many, many years. So that I am very, very grateful for. I honestly have heard the Hassles albums. I have no desire to sing those songs.
Thank you, man. I was like, please.
What?
No.
I don't know.
You don't like those albums? I think they're good. All right. I mean,
do you know what,
Attila,
Tony?
I can understand.
I honestly think someone like David Clarke should do that.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think David, if he wants to pick that up and do it, I think he should do it to you Americans, to you guys, especially you guys, especially in Long Island, because you guys know the Hassles. You remember the Hassles. Some of you were part of the history. Some of you sat in the audience watching Billy Joel play organ in a band called the Hassles and Larry Russell in the band called The Age of Reason, supporting them. You know, so I think there's a much greater history there. I'll never say never, but there are too many great Billy Joel songs that are not on albums that I would love to have a chance to perform. Some
definitely
great
not this
songs.
year with everything you have going on. It's amazing
not
everything that you're going to be doing.
I think it's a nice way to, like, when you're done with all the albums, I think it's a nice way to kind of cap it off, just to do some B-sides and non-album tracks. Like,
give me an example of a B-side that I would know.
Elvis Presley Boulevard, House of Blue Light, All My Life.
Real Bad Time.
You picked a real bad time. Nobody Knows But Me.
The Night Is Still Young.
Night Is Still Young. You're Only Human.
You're Only Human.
You're Only Human was a B. B-side?
It was on his greatest hits, but it was on the greatest hits as a new song.
Okay.
Light as the Breeze.
Well,
That's not Billy Joel, though.
That's not Billy Joel.
That's not Billy Joel. If you're going to do that,
Leonard
then I've got to
Cohen,
do
right?
When You Wish Upon a Star.
Sure,
I've got to
so
do
go
in
ahead.
in a sentimental mood. I'm not interested in doing that. What's the point? That's me singing in this. I mean, just because Billy did those songs. What's the one he did? Where were you on our wedding day?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it now. What's the other one?
Route
In a
6.
sentimental mood.
I love his version of that.
Well, Light as a
it's
Breeze
beautiful.
is kind of like Joe Cocker doing a Beatle song. Like, I mean,
No.
like Billy Joel's Light as a Breeze is took Leonard Cohen's song and it just made it so incredible. Leonard Cohen was probably like, man, I can't even believe I wrote that.
Do you know what, Sally? I'm suffering right now from the same thing I used to do with the Billy Joel song. When people were saying to me in 2014 and the beginning of 2015, or the beginning of the history of the show, you've got to record the show. Why don't you record the show? Why don't you put a CD out? Why don't you put a DVD? And I'm like, no. I feel exactly the same right now. Keep going. I might change my mind.
So Joel fan is not Mike Stutz. My apologies. It's Eric Felon. Hello,
I
Eric.
knew that.
Sorry.
Hello, Eric. Hi,
Hi.
Eric.
Eric.
He asks an interesting question. What are your thoughts on Adam Ripp making a movie on the early days of Billy Joel? I didn't even know that was happening. Adam Ripp being the son of Artie, who put together Cold Spring Harbor.
Yeah. What are my feelings? Well, I mean, of course, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about whether the truth is being told. I'm intrigued whether, of course, if he's the son of Artie Ripp, who allegedly ripped off Billy Joel and got him to sign something that really was a very unfair contract. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of
That's
what
kind
went
of
on.
my feelings.
It's awful, like having someone like make more money off of Billy Joel who was mean-spirited.
I'm kind of thinking, can't this Rip family just leave the guy alone?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is so in preparing for the album tracks, excuse me, for the albums tour. So you're doing
Bridge?
the bridge and turnstiles.
Correct.
What out of those two albums, what was the hardest song to learn for this, or has that even happened yet? Because I know you guys haven't really rehearsed
That's a
lot
really
yet.
good question. That's a really good question. I'm going to share something with you, which should make you funny, make you laugh. About 2 months ago, I had a nightmare. I literally had a nightmare, and I woke up in the middle of the night of this nightmare. And you know what the nightmare was?
No.
The nightmare was me in a dressing room somewhere, in the interval of a show somewhere, with members of my band. I think Neil Fairclough was in this nightmare as well. And I'm putting on my shirt, chatting to the band about having just done the bridge in the first half, chatting about the second half, just checking things over. Yeah, don't forget that harmony goes like that. Then we do that. Yeah, no, 2 times round, the ending is ba 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 ba. I was having this conversation with the band, and the nightmare was all of a sudden in this conversation, I froze because I realised I'd forgotten to learn James.
Oh wow.
I'd forgotten to learn it. And I'm just about to go on stage and do the Turnstiles album. And in the middle of the second half is a song called James.
Yeah.
And my nightmare was that I'd forgotten to learn it. And I tell you what, I woke up in a cold sweat. Because the feeling of going, oh my gosh, I don't know it. I don't know the words. I don't even know what key it's in. I had to get up.
You're just
and
be making up the words. You'd be like, James, don't do that job. You should. No, stick with music,
Why
James.
you doing that job?
La,
You should
la,
have been
la,
a
la.
musician, but you didn't do. And
What is
so
your
I tell you
last
what,
name? And poor Amy had to clean the sheets. They're all soaking wet from you sweating all over them.
I'm telling you, I got up in the middle of the night and I put headphones on. I listened to it about 4 times, and then I went to headphones and I plugged it into the piano, and I had on headphones, and I ran through the song at about 5 o'clock in the morning.
And then he called Neil up. I got it. And Neil's like, I'm sleeping, you bloody fool. And,
I tell you what song's difficult. Let me tell you what song is. That's not a difficult song to learn. It's just I've never done it before, and I can't wait. It's utterly beautiful. The song that is a tough one to sing is Running on Ice.
Oh, sure.
There's a lot of tension in this town.
yeah.
I know it's building up inside of me. I got the symptoms and the side effects of city life anxiety. Yeah. I mean, it's a great song, but that's you need to be on it. You need to be on it.
Well,
I can't
yeah.
wait to do these songs. The album, the bridge, Turnstiles, incredible songs. Of course, we do New York State of Mind, Prelude, Angry Young Man, and Say Goodbye to Hollywood. We've done Big Man on Mulberry Street. Amy sang Big Man on Mulberry Street at the
Yes.
Mattersea gig in the middle of the pandemic. Baby Grand. It's a fantastic batch of songs. And unfortunately, once we're done with this batch of songs, like we were in March with Street Life Serenade and 52nd Street, you may never, ever in Britain ever get to hear these songs played live again. When is the next time that you're going to go to a theatre with a beautiful light show, with amazing sound, with a world-class band, and hear the Mexican Connection again?
Right. Yeah.
It's never going to happen, is it? Well, maybe one. I'm hoping... some kid who's enjoying my shows at the moment, who's 15 or 16 or 20, is going to come round one day and go, I want to do what Elio Pace used to do. I'm going to do Street Life Serenade.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And Mark Whitehead says, we may have noticed that James was missing. Yeah.
Yes.
And
it's such a beautiful song.
A very underrated album. That album is almost the greatest hits album in itself, just like The Stranger is.
Yeah, it is. Sonically, doesn't sound, in my view, doesn't quite sound as good. Actually, to be honest, I think Street Life Serenade sounds better than Turnstiles as a production.
Yeah, production wise, but
Production-wise.
Turnstiles is, with the exception of All You Want to Do Is Dance and maybe James, it's the greatest hits album. Say Goodbye to Hollywood, Miami 2017. I've loved These Days. Say Goodbye to Hollywood, Angry Young
Summer
Man,
Highland Falls,
right? New York State of Mind. I mean,
Prelude, Angry Young Man.
These are
it's
almost
phenomenal.
all those songs he still plays today.
Yeah, he does. There's a big difference, though, to when Phil Ramone came along a year later.
Oh, yeah.
And you hear the sound of Moving Out, track number
Right.
1. Oh, it's fantastic.
A question came earlier, and forgive me, I forget who asked it, but the question was, how do you choose what albums to do?
That's a really good question, because it's been one of the most difficult things to do, because I blew it right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, when I asked David Brown to come and do the first album show, I thought that was going to be it. I thought, let's do an albums tour. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Which one? And David Brown's going to do it, so let's do the first album he was on, Glass Houses, and let's do An Innocent Man. 2 of the biggest albums in Billy's career. I blew it.
Well, are you blowing it because you did them out of order? Is that what bothers you? or?
No,
He's saying he
because
did
I
these
tell you
2 big
why.
albums, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, they're
because
all big
I should have.
albums, you know?
Had I thought I was going to do all of the albums, which is what we're going to do now, I would have saved Glass Houses and matched it with Street Life Serenade, or saved Innocent Man and matched it. I thought I'm going to get one chance to do an albums tour. It was so successful, so much fun. We came back, so they were all. I didn't really think about the order. I just thought, let's do my favourite Billy Joel album, Innocent Man, and let's do the first album that David Brown was on, because David Brown's coming. That'll be it. I didn't give it any thought, but luckily...
But you didn't know, like, what you don't know what album means to different people. Like me and David Clark always talk about the fact that we were both, 10, 11 years old, when we first got our first, when we just happened to be that age when the Stranger album came out. That was actually, because of our age, that was our first album. And we had to like look back later and been like, oh, there's Piano Man, there's this. So you don't know what, Billy Joel affects everyone in such a different way.
Yeah. I don't need to go back to it, but that's what I mean. That Billy, to start sort of belittling what he's done it's an extraordinarily weird thing to do, because how can he not see the beauty of Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, the beauty of Goodnight Saigon, the lyrical content in that? It's I don't get it. I as you know, I have my theory, and I've just told you what it is, but yeah.
Share with us who's in your band. Let's give them some credit here.
Absolutely, thank you. Well, the one and only Neil Fairclough is back. He's just finished his massive European tour with Queen, Adam Lambert, Brian May, Roger Taylor.
And let's throw in there the Deccan Traps, his band.
Have you heard? If you've not heard the Deccan Traps, DECCAN Traps, Neil is just taking it to another level. But what doesn't ever get said about this is that Neil is one of the main writers of the material in that. He's not just playing bass and singing. He's one of the main writers and producers. I can hear Neil's influence all over those singles we've heard so far, because I've seen him work with me in studios and in rehearsal rooms when he comes up with a great idea. Hey, dude, what about we do this? What about, at the end, what about if we ended it? Oh, that's nice. I like that. He's such a creative force. A seat at my table, it was his idea to do so many bits and pieces there. He's such a great musician, arranger. Neil Fairclough is back on bass and vocals. And he's doing the whole tour and the album show as well, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And in fact, we got the same band for the whole thing. I've got Tom Wright on guitar back. He's been very busy boy. Tom Wright is starting to kill it, doing other shows. He's got his own thing. His songwriting is just becoming even more incredible. He's just recorded some new material. But he's been playing Buddy Holly in a touring show featuring the music of the Everly Brothers, and he has a little starring role as Buddy Holly in the middle of that. Luckily, we've got him for this tour. On drums, the guy who's been my drummer for, I'm going to say about 7 years now. He's the wonderful Mikey Chancho, who is just incredible. He's just an amazing drummer, a beautiful human being, one of the funniest people I know, keeps us all so... Imagine having Neil Fairclough and Mikey Chancho on the same tour bus. They're just amazing guys. And Frank Walden is playing saxophone. He was with Amy Winehouse at the beginning of her career. He was with Tom Jones for 10 years. And I'm very, very lucky to have Frank. He plays in all sorts of wonderful things, and I'm very lucky that he will carve out time to come on tour with me. I met him on a Martha Reeves tour. I was musical director for Martha Reeves' show called Dancing in the Street that toured all around these huge venues that we're doing now. So I've been to the Glasgow Concert Hall, but as a piano player for someone else, So I met Frank on that many years ago, 2004, I think it was. And then on keyboards, second keyboards, is the brilliant Matthew Newton, who does all the clever stuff. He does all the synths, all the strings, or the organ, and all the sound effects. And he's just a phenomenal player. Comes and plays the piano for Innocent Man and Uptown Girl whilst I'm out there pretending to be a rock star. He's he's great. The band are killing. Our tour manager, Alan Bailey, is just a wonderful guy. He drives us around. He's just wonderful to be with. We have one of the best sound engineers in Mike Crott. We have one of the best lighting engineers in Richard Wood. And we have Nigel Cliff joining us as our stage manager. It's a beautiful team. It's a beautiful little family. We have a lot of laughs, and everybody pulls together. And everybody knows that they're doing it because I love Billy Joel. This is my baby. And they're just so great at making it feel very special for me, and I really appreciate that.
And even your merch is fantastic. And I'm not just saying this, because we're doing this. This has got to be, and I tell you all the time, this has got to be the most comfortable shirt I've ever had in my life, right?
You do wear it a lot, I have to say.
I do, because it is such a comfortable shirt.
Comfort shirt.
Really, yeah.
Do you know, those shirts have sold out. We don't have any more of those. We've only got about 8 of the old batch, and I'm happy to say that this year, not only is there going to be a brand new album on the table, we've got some brand new merch things and T-shirts, and we've got a beautiful book coming. We've got some cups. We've got some baseball caps. So,
nice.
It's all there.
All right, we're getting ready to wind down. Got just a handful of questions left. First of all, I'm going to read a comment from Eric Fellon. I think Tony and Sallie should have a quiz and send 2 lucky winners out to the UK to see Elio live. I'd really like to see him perform again. Eric, if you're willing to put the money up for that, we'll be happy to do that. Then he says, or let's start a GoFundMe page to get Elio to come out here to perform. I'm all for that.
Well,
yeah.
that's very kind of you. Eric, I'll tell you something. I don't know Eric personally, but Eric, if you decide to do the crazy thing and jump on a plane and come and see our show this autumn, I'll make sure you get tickets to the show on me.
Oh, very nice. Oh, that would be great. I bet you Eric would take you up on that.
Well, if he does, I'm true to my word because I really appreciate. Do you know how special it is to have friends across the ocean in America? You know, my music taste is all based around America.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up loving America from you know, Delbert McClinton to Elvis to Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, Billy Joel, the Doobie Brothers, Stevie Wonder, you know, Dr. John, Ray Charles, all of my favorite go-to music, Willie Nelson,
Marilyn
Aaron
Manson.
Neville, Aaron Neville. All of my favorite music throughout my life really has come from America. Of course, there's other stuff, ABBA and Elton John, definitely. But no, so to have friends in America who are saying lovely things is a really lovely feeling. Thank you very much, Eric.
All right, so you got the live album, you got the tour. What's after that? What's next?
Well, I think people have cottoned on to the fact that I did an albums tour in March and we're doing another one in October. That's 6 months. And they know that there's some catching up to do because of the pandemic and where things are. So I've got to tell you guys, and I'm happy to make this an exclusive for you as well. We're going to finish the set. We're going to finish the albums, all 12, as long as we all stay healthy. By the end of next year, it will all be done. So what's coming next is this. We've got 2 more album show tours to come next year, and when we'll be doing albums 9 and 10, 11 and 12. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but people are there's only 4 left.
Right, so it's pretty easy to figure that out.
you can sort of start to figure what's happening. And I'm going to go on tour now, and come November, after a bit of rest and stuff like that, I'm going to get back to work. I'm going to get back to start working on one of those albums that we've recorded so far, ready for release in March. I may even have time to do 2. So I'm just going to start flooding the market. I've got to get over this Billy Joel bump. I've got to do it. I'm never going to stop doing the songbook show because nothing in the world has ever brought me as much pleasure as performing Billy Joel songs to people that love Billy Joel, or even people that are prepared to be convinced that Billy's the greatest singer-songwriter of all time. So I as long as I have breath in my body, I will never stop doing the Billy Joel songbook. But I do want to write my own material again. I do want to do a tour, even if it's a 5-date tour, 6-date tour of my own songs again. And I have other little projects that I'd like to do as well. But yeah, we're going to start working on the DVD of the Sigma. I'm going to start working on the release of one of the 6 albums we've recorded already. I haven't decided which one it is yet. And that's what I'll be doing. So still working.
And you know, this might be a good thread for it, even though we're about to wind down. But I bet you everybody here would agree with me that somehow, if it's even a mixture like a Billy Joel, like a miniature Billy Joel songbook mixed in with here's some originals of mine you may not have heard before, I would just to start getting it out there again. I would love to see that.
Do you know what, Tony? I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that because I would feel I'm cheating people.
Well, yeah, but if they know that, if they know that's what it is, I bet you that's what I'm saying. I bet you the people that are watching this would absolutely agree. So yeah, I would go to a show like that where it's a mixture. Well, you know, that way they're getting some familiar tunes and they're getting exposed to some great tunes they may not have heard before.
Yeah, like a bonus track.
I couldn't put Billy Joel on a poster and then trick people into coming and then we spend 20 minutes of the show performing my own material. There's not a chance I'm going to do that. Yeah, what I would do is like I used to. I did many tours in this country, and I played Ronnie Scott's, which is one of our most prestigious jazz clubs in London, where I would do my own material. The whole night was 2 hours of my own material, but I would throw in a Willie Nelson song, a Billy Joel song, an Elton John song, an Elvis Presley song. So I'm happy to. I want to go back to that, but I don't want to go back and do the same of my own material. I'd like to write a whole batch of songs, and I'm always writing, just like that Sigma was always sitting in my head.
Right.
I think every single day I come up with another melody, I come up with another lyric, and I dictate and I put it into my phone, and I put it into the notes. If I could just carve out 4 months to myself of doing nothing, I could probably write 3 albums worth of new material.
Oh wow!
Whoa,
I thought he was going to
holy
say
moly.
3 songs.
No,
Wow.
I've got at least 60 musical ideas that would be filtered down into probably about 30 songs.
Well, we have a comment here, and this is the perfect way to wrap things up here. I've known Elio for 30 years. He always has been an absolute perfectionist when it comes to music and Billy Joel, so much that when I want to hear a Billy song, I have to listen to Elio's version. But what a lot of people don't know is that Elio is an amazing songwriter in his own right, and I hope when he is done with the Billy Joel stuff, the world will get to hear some of his own music.
Yep.
Alex Andreas?
And Alex, well, thank you so much, Alex. That means the world to me. I know Alex extremely well. We've been best buddies for many years.
Well, 30 he
years.
says, yeah. Emma says, I'd love a best of album show. 2 or 3 album tracks from each album in one show. That's interesting. All right.
I've already thought about that. I have to say, Emma, that's already crossed my mind, because once the albums are done, it's like, okay, which ones did you like the best? I know that Zanzibar's going to come up. I know that Los Angelinos is going to come up.
Nice.
So would it
nice.
be? I was thinking maybe we'll do something like that. Maybe we will.
Emma, my apologies. I did not get to the questions I saved, but as you know, this is proof that I saved them from the last time we did a Q&A, so I'll hold on to them, and when the next time we do one of these, I'll bring these with me. But we did, we mentioned Emma a lot, and she's included here, so
Thank you, Emma.
forgive me, Emma. All right, with that, one more time, where can we get the album, all your albums? Where do they got to go?
My website, eliopace.com. eliopace.com. I've had a lot of inquiries from across the ocean saying, can we buy this album in America? Can we buy it in Germany, in Norway? And the answer is no. Not officially.
Totally expected him to say yes.
No. This is not Warner's. This is not Sony's. This is not Columbia Records putting this record out. This is my little company. This is my money that's been invested in putting this together, because I want to go to bed and know that I've ticked off a huge box. Checked off. You call it checked. We call it ticked. I just wanted to get this out of the way, and I still feel very strongly about the whole streaming thing. I'm sorry to be so down about it, but streaming doesn't pay. I spend all this money and all these hours and years of my life, and you want me to give it away on Apple Music or stuff like that? It's not going to happen until they pay creative content providers fairly and not 0.0038 cents per stream. Then I'm going to make my music and put it on my website, and if you want to buy it, we'll do everything we possibly can to get it to you. We've shipped this week to New Zealand, to Japan, to Norway, to Germany, to Denmark, lots of times, not just once, France, to Poland, and to America, lots to America. We
That's what I was
will,
waiting for.
of course, loads to America. We will do everything we can, but you know what? We're a small business, and I just can't sleep at night knowing that I would work this hard and spend this much to get something out there and then literally just give it away.
Good
Can't
for
do it.
you. Good for you. I'm with you 100% on that.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, Emma says we're going to have a vote online for the songs from each album if you do a best of album show. Richard Cogger says, thank you for a great show. Lovely to hear you all. Mark Whitehead, fantastic show. Thank you, everyone. Off to wait for the postman and my lovely album delivery. And then Emma says, great interview, and she thanks all of us. Thank you, guys. Again, eliopace.com. Get over there and order that album. It comes out tomorrow, so a lot of you over there in the UK will be fortunate to see it there on your doorstep tomorrow. We're looking forward to it. thank you for letting us play a track and hear a couple of tunes.
My pleasure. And I tell you, Tony and Sally, if you want to hear it tomorrow, you can, because we've also gone to the effort of making sure that people can download it from my website as
There you
well.
go.
It's all there. We've done the best we can to keep up with the conglomerates. So if you want to hear it, just go and download it.
Very nice. And yeah, that's a great idea. So if you're in the United States like we are, you'll still be able to hear it tomorrow. You just won't have a physical copy, but you can still hear it. So there you go.
Right.
All right, pal.
Thank you so much,
Yeah, we
Tony.
did a while.
Thank you, Sally,
pal.
both of you.
Say hi to Amy and all the best on the tour. Make sure, and where do they get? Can they go to the website for tickets for the tour too? Or
The
where do they-
website is my shop. It's my market stall. Everything, tickets, CDs, T-shirts, baseball caps, it'll all be available at my website.
Perfect. Have a great tour. Looking forward to hearing all the great stories from that.
Cheers,
And
mate.
thank you, pal. We'll do this again,
Thank
of
you.
course. We'll see you soon.
I really appreciate it. Thank
Absolutely.
you so
Thank
much.
you. All right. And Sally and I, of course, we have the Knock 'em Dead Comedy Podcast live here on Gov's Comedy Club Podcast every weekday except Wednesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's like, I don't know, whatever time. It's
4
like
o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock in the afternoon.
4 o'clock over there. Please join us and say hi to us. And we appreciate all the support. We appreciate you guys watching. And we'll see you again. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Elio.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.